they got the job done. They were more proactive than I expected them to be over the Battleground, which I think is a good sign looking towards game number 2 on their behalf. But LFM was still the ones that held on much longer than I thought they should be able to, considering the composition.
Compositionally, there was one thing about that team, the team of Endemic, that stood out the most to me, because the only way they can make those rotations that they did was the man wielding 2 swords. And that was a Twin Blades variant. You can't just push down bot and siege up on a keep with almost any other hero. Maybe a Greymane, maybe an Illidan in those situations, and maybe a Varian. And all 3 of those have very unique capabilities, but Varian in this instance was the off-laner in this situation, and it held up well, held its own, and was able to do rotations that we probably wouldn't have seen. If that's a Dahaka, if that's a Yrel, if that's a Blaze, it doesn't look anything like it did.
Yeah, he has his individual demand over a structure just because of purely his capabilities, just going, all right, I'm going to take this if you end up leaving me alone, to kind of the melee Sylve, if you will, almost to a certain extent there. And it's part of the reason he is such a high impact play. But Endemic forcing that with the pick, I think, is the biggest silver lining. And that's that level of proactive play that I didn't expect to see from Endemic. And now that we got it, makes game number 2 even more, interesting here with these 2 teams.
Well, I mentioned at the second ban of that one that Fury said he might have some interesting picks available. I don't think that was in the playbook.
Okay.
So I think this draft will look a little different than we saw in game number 1. So when we do get to game number 2, I don't think we're going to see triple support again. They did what they could with it there, unable to execute. But Endemic, that's a team that we have seen make clutch rotations in the past, and they did it there. We're going to see if they can make the same rotations as we head to game number 2 here on Infernal Shrines Dreadnought. And this is a map that, if we've seen Team Freedom play, we know that Endemic has countered them on this. We've seen Endemic pick up strategies, and they make some pretty mean rotations here as well.
Yeah, this is the go-to when it comes to looking at Endemic in the past. This is their favorite battleground to kind of make those rotations in. And talking about some of the rotations that we got in the last game, when we looked at Endemic post-roll swaps and everything else, we were like, whenever Mikey Dahl has that off-lane clear, suddenly this team looks a lot more onto the same page. And bringing it to that last game, they had him on a support. It was a double support, but they still held their own because they had wave clear in off lanes in other roles. Not so much the off lane itself, Varian, not the best wave clear, but they did have that through the Johanna and things like. So I just wonder, going into the rest of the series, can Endemic still look as good without that off lane clear? And if so, do they have to get it through other roles, or are they going to find ways to be able to make up through that on just rotations alone?
One of those key heroes that does do well on Infernal Shrines, Junkrat. That's something that does give them the flexibility in those rotations. See if that comes in here, since we now have gone a lot of double support lately. And Michael Udall would fit that role, allowing Dansky to make the big plays. We know Dansky is one of the best that we have in terms of the ranged role. And if you can allow him to do that and enable him, whether it is through, look, I got the wave clear here, I've got your shot calling, or I've got your second support, Dansky, you do your thing, we can make this work. So we'll see what type of adaptations we see in this draft, and whether LFM wants to go in with another early support and try and pick up that double support before that second ban.
I do think we're going to see the continuous Toronto Whitemane conundrum as this series unfolds, but beyond that, the double support, I think, is a to each their own type deal. One thing I do expect to remain constant, though, is probably the Medivh Maevs.
An interesting question for you is that we saw a Zul ban in the second ban slot by Endemic. If I want to run a Zul and I want to make sure I get guaranteed curse strikes because enemies hit, there's a lot on this map.
Yeah, there is, and may even raise. I wouldn't be surprised if you're a first pick team and you pick up a Tyrande in these type of situations, feeling comfortable with the Zul in the 1-2. You likely are going to have to put some kind of resource management into the Johanna afterwards, and it puts a significant advantage. But as long as you're comfortable with using that ban and you aren't afraid of anything else specifically, I think it's a major play within the pick bans. Is Medivh and Maiev still, they're gone, man.
See if this sticks to what we had last game. Or was it a Haka ban by LFM previously? This time they'll be the ones taking Abathur out. See if we have more of that overall control. Tyrande. I expect a Whitemane here. Of all the, Yrel would be the best argument, but I feel that a Whitemane has to be picked up here, and they do. Yeah,
I agree with you there. I think she's clearly shown to be unrivaled in the supporting capabilities, even without the double support. The beauty of Whitemane is she doesn't really hurt too bad in the double support either.
That fight at the bottom, I'm like, Whitemane's going to die. No, no. Okay, yeah, you know what? Whitemane can keep herself alive here.
1-2 here now from Endemic with the Whitemane pickup. A responsive Deckard Kane along with that Johanna.
I think that's going to be a very common pickup. It's been Johanna Muradin. Diablo's been let through, by the way, for Fury.
Yeah.
Muradin, Diablo are heroes that he likes to play. If he doesn't pick one of those two heroes, I don't think it's going to be any other warrior. Maybe an ETC would be an outside shot, but when both of those are available, it's just too hard. And they do go into the Diablo. The Deckard and Johanna, I think, are very good counters in terms of controlling that style of frontline and dealing with that type of aggression.
Yeah.
But we pair it with the Malthael.
The only thing I'm torn on is I just wonder, is the Deckard that high, even with the Whitemane pickup on the other side, worth it? I just wonder, is an offlane pick in that area, or is there a primary resource that would be more worth the pickup here from Endemic there? Because to me, Deckard, I think he was a little overvalued, especially post-Whitemane coming out, and even more so since the slow and steady nerfs have kind of come in here. And just Infernal Shrines, though it does have a long sustained fight around an objective itself, the rotations and things like that, Deckard doesn't thrive as much as he can on things like Tomb.
Junkrat has to be in consideration unless you're comfortable letting it through.
Or an offlane that maybe is concerning for the Malthael. But I would expect probably more like the Junkrat, because also he has the lower HP, makes it harder to deal with. Raynor.
No Aurelia in this draft, by the way.
Well, I think from LFM, that makes sense, right? LFM's taking the Malthael as a deny. We want the Diablo so bad that we're willing to pick the Malthael so you can't have that, and so we can ban whatever we want. But that shows that they fear the triple slow pickups of Deckard, JoJo, and Raynor all on the same team so much that that be worth it more than prioritizing an offlane mismatch in favor of the Malthael, as we get our Blaze as the selection here from Endemic.
But the Tychus Dreadnought, I love this. We saw it earlier in EU in their series where Method moved on. We saw it rip apart a Diablo in that game.
Yeah.
Tychus great on Infernal Shrines, both in taking the objective, defending against the objective, or pushing with the objective. We will get the Task Vala, so double support, not in the true sense. Tassadar does very well on this Battleground Dreadnought. I know back in the day you were a big fan of Tassadar because of what he supplies, not just to his team, but in the objective as well here.
Yeah, Tassadar is very, very high impact when it comes to Infernal Shrines itself. Another combo that is a possible always when you have the Diablo on your team, though with the double support, usually you still see the Archon, but you can go the Shadow Charge or into the Force Wall, which is very difficult around Infernal Shrines. The odds of you getting blocked out in just one shot, near 100%. But we get ourselves a last pick Mephisto out from Endemic.
I can dig it. Getting the cooldown on your trait here, super easy to do. You've got good frontline targets. You're on the shrine. There's several ways to play. You get the cooldown reduction hitting. It can look good. It can look good.
Yeah.
It can look... I think Trick brought it up earlier in the game. I think it was Volskaya in the earlier series. It's like, maybe counter. It's like, well, you see all this damage. Like, you look at the damage numbers, you're like, man, like, how did he get all that damage?
Yeah.
It just kind of sneaks up on you. It is more, it's hard to get the priority target focus until you get to 16. You can still dish out a lot of damage if you can track somebody down at the end of that Lightning Nova and just stay on top of them for the bonus damage. But overall, it's just, in this instance, I really like it.
I agree. I think it's definitely one of the better iterations. But I want to bring it back to the one crux that you kind of just posed there, is the lack of priority target selection. Double support meta supports characters who can choose who they kill when they kill better than any other meta that exists, and that is what we see kind of forming on the other side. So I just wonder, is the Mephisto raw damage output up until that 16 threshold going to be enough in that high impact there with that Lightning Nova?
See who the executioner will be. Tychus does great at the initial burst damage with the bigger they are potentially at level 4. See if it plays out here. And Mephisto will be going into the cooldown reduction where basic attacks against enemy heroes also activate the Lord of Hatred, reducing basic ability cooldowns by 1 second. The one scary thing about the two assassins for Endemic, one of them has a 4.5 auto attack range, and Tychus, the other one has a 4. So you're kind of saying, hello, and let me stand in front of you Diablo.
Yeah, I was going to say, in which warrior, out of all the warriors you could list, would I want like a limited range? I get to choose my initiation setup. Yeah, I'm going to take me a Dibbles in that. So Fury has to be high impact here for LFM.
For Fury Dreadnought, he's that one hero. I said it before, I'll say it again. He is the one player that when he is on a warrior role, that he can make or break a game.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have other people carry a game. He's not going to carry every game. But when he's on something like a Diablo, like a Muradin, he can single-handedly just create havoc, chaos, get kills, and just really be such an asset for his team. We'll see if he can get some of that going here in game number 2.
Yeah, I think the most important thing to kind of add on to that point there, Jay Howe, is a lot of warriors, every warrior we watch, every warrior we play with, they can definitely break a game, but very few make it consistently as we see Fury into making it there for the rest of the team. Always stepping up and picking up a couple of souls here up in the bottom lane for now. LFM in the downtime looking towards the Impalers. They went with an inverse laning matchup on the second wave. It was a smart offset from LFM. It's the reason they're able to take this camp at dead even timing is purely because of the deviation between the TAS Diablo. But it's really not that big of an upper hand here. It's just showing some of the small things that LFM has been doing over time to improve here as a team and why they find themselves in the playoffs.
Dread, I'm really curious how LFM will approach the first objective. You can get a lot of sustained DPS and some burst damage from droplets, but when I think of a Diablo 3 minutes into the game, when I think of a Tassadar 3 minutes into the game, it doesn't necessarily scream like I can stand there and fight.
Yeah.
And I wonder if they'll maybe try and find an advantage elsewhere on the map as we see Dansky snipping out into that. We'll step forward, find droplets, the target healing, and the shield come in. Should be enough as Fury has made his presence felt. I think it should be an easy grab. They took a little while to get this. Fury body blocking Beakia. That's actually nice. That's a huge character model, Dread.
Yeah, that was a big play, but even bigger model to be able to set that one up here for the team. It is a good point you raised, though. Where does the advantage in the early game come at all? Because I was asking the same question, but I started from the opposite perspective originally. Looking at the Shrine, I go, well, you know, Blaze not that bad of clear on his own, one of the better when it comes to offlaners to fill that. Tychus isn't terrible, but you never really want to queue them just to be able to pick up the clear itself, and his auto attacks aren't that impressive themselves. Mephisto can throw a couple of Qs here and there, but outside of skirmishing, he's not going to want to do that too well either. I don't think it's too bad that it's a major hole, but I'm not so concerned that Endemic bullies off of this outside of the Mephisto show, which is going to be a problem throughout the entirety of this. So in my mind, what you do is you bait the bigger they are, you disengage, and then that's where you look for the major upper hand.
See if they can make it happen. Shrine underway here. Cure and Swabs face off 1-1. Cure with the early advantage with his clear on Blaze. Trying to snipe these out. Chimera gets some damage in right where the jet propulsion goes. Fury in with another body block. He is not going anywhere. He's like, Cure, that's awfully cute, but you are stuck here with me, and that should be enough to get a very early start. As Michael Udall goes in on that Mephisto, making good use of that Diablo hitbox.
Yeah, man. You can tell Diablo's not too afraid of fire there in his environment with how well he was able to handle that Blaze. That was impressive. The shadow charge into just holding his own. And, you know, we see body blocks like that, but normally what happens is somebody panics.
You wiggle?
Fury didn't wiggle. He constantly kept still. He very much held his ground there, and that was impressive play here. And even more so important when looking at LFM towards that question that we were asking, where do they get the first advantage? They brought the fight before Endemic even got the Mephisto poking and prodding.
It's the point I always bring up is that Shaman camp, if you get halfway past that marker, you have an advantage momentarily until the enemy clears it up. Cure stayed on that point a little too long, and Fury and team, they had the advantage. We saw the delayed pickup by Endemic, so that went over to LFM, so they do get that first kill. They'll move forward. Michael Udall putting on the damage there. I really wonder what we'll see at 13 from Michael Udall going in. This is one of the better battlegrounds where you get the auto attacks at 13 where they splash, because the splash radius is quite forgiving on your autos to get value out of that level 1, or whether we'll get spell power out of landing your Q. Keep an eye on that.
Not too many targets have the opportunity to even dodge Mephisto if he ends up going with the Consumed Souls. was trying to figure out, you know, is there a reason to maybe not want to go with that spell power opportunity beyond just the default having bonus spell power is always good for any mage-oriented hero. Tassadar should be the only realistic escape opportunity from them with that dimensional shift.
I'm really excited to see how these team fights play out post-10. I mean, there's counterplays on both sides. You mentioned the Mephisto. There's a lot of fireworks potential, and there could just be that one kill. What's the deal? Just we took this over, and Fury's like, I'm ending this before it ever begins. You know?
Yeah. The one thing I'm really torn on here, and I can't tell if it's just like, you know, the snowflake factor within my soul that's screaming this. I just don't know if I'm sold on Lightning Breath in this game. And for some reason, it just does, like, between the bunker, the mobility of Mephisto, Tychus is never going to move up. And if he does, he's forcing the Lightning Breath because you're just going to die. But APOC's such a long cooldown, I don't know if that's the way to go. But because it's a double support into double support, I just can't help but feel like waiting out the cooldowns of Endemic and then go, okay, here's our APOC turn, much like you see here from Endemic in the bottom lane, is maybe a way to really bring the fight into later stages. We'll find out, as Heroics are kind of just around the corner from both teams. But I'm just not sold that Lightning Breath is going to do anything other than be a placeholder, even if he gets a
shrine clear, and that's pretty much it. It's like, I'll zone this off for a few seconds. Maybe when I get 20, I'm with you. I'm with you. It'll be interesting as he has that chance now, and it will be Lightning Breath. We'll see how that plays out. Level 10 being picked up. That last skirmish, I think, really highlights the Johanna factor, is that you don't have the initiation, you don't have the setup, and you found Diablo had 100 souls, don't get me wrong, but you had no way of like, okay, I'm going to lock him down for a minute so my team can rip this apart. And Tychus is like, look, if you could just get him to stand still for 1 second, my minigun can rip through here. We'll see how that plays out going forward.
For anyone at home who doesn't play too much Tychus or maybe know how Tychus functions, with that minigun, you can always judge if he has it active from an observer's perspective based on if that thing is lit up red. That is where the defining factor is, and if you're a Diablo, that is one of the reds you run away from, because that's a big stop sign there.
If you can't see it, you want to know what else is lit, it's not your health bar, because that thing will disappear rapidly.
What's lit is Tychus's brain, as all of his little effectiveness in the team fight is kind of going off.
Ooh, nice clear there. Nice snipe. But this is our first big fight. It's time for things to unfold between these teams. See if Odin gets used to try and confirm this, or whether it will be held for potentially pushing or defending. As right now, there's an early lead for LFM, and there's that Lightning Breath, and all it's doing, Dreadnought, is zoning, and out comes the Odin.
And now it's going to be the re-heal here as Mephisto drops the Consume Souls. It's going to be Dimensional Shift there. The rest of it actually not getting much value, if anything, in that fight. Now suddenly the turnaround from LFM. That was unscathed, J-How, when it came to that Mephisto damage.
Wow. I mean, they just ripped that apart as soon as it was over. Malthael already peeling off before it ever ended. Camps will be dealt with at the top. No Odin for defense. The wall is down, and this is a stacked Diablo. They'll try and get the bait over with the Johanna, see if Fury can find an opening. He's waiting for his minions to try and take this down. It's time.
Blaze making his way down for Endemic. See if he wants to stay a little bit farther out here and maybe flank around the siege, as the leap from the Punisher does come through onto B-Kid. Top Shaman Camp will secure the fort inevitably for LFM. LFM can triple fort play. It won't be a full triple fort play because Blaze is responding to top, but double fort play into triple fort on top afterwards.
You mentioned that Malthael made that rotation down. Look at the mid lane now. They instant collapse there with that entire minion wave. This is plays made in the long run. It's like swabs peel off, take mid lane, then go top, and then come back down. We'll meet you there. They get more advantages throughout, and even if they don't get a fort here, Dreadnought, it just sets up. So, okay, we took the well. We took down the wall. If the next shrine is mid, and we get the next Punisher, it's lights out. We're moving down this lane easily and rapidly. As Michael Udon will use that shade, get in, get some poke damage. So LFM, they are making some serious plays happen.
Yeah, the macro sense very much being displayed there by LFM, as you had pointed out here within their rotations, and it's going to continue to do so on the bottom half with the Impaler pickup. Forgot that, you know, early game Punishers, J-How, are a little bit squishier than I expected there. So, but it does highlight how, again, clean some of the macro sense of LFM's play very much is here, as they're going to back out, pick up another camp in this downtime. likely not going to do anything really up until the next Shrine fight. Shrine fights are working into their favor. And so expecting it to be the next Shrine fight is the breaking point. My question is going to be, what does Endemic do different? Because that last one didn't look good.
LFM, they'll have a chance, and you can see the long rotations. They have camps bottom and mid. That buys them time to take the well top. They are making the long play. Dreda, everything that LFM has done since that Shrine phase, I am insanely impressed by.
Yeah.
It's really hard to put into words how strong this is. They are keeping Endemic on a rope, forcing them to respond each step of the way. Fort great, well, 100% necessary. They get this. They have that control in the top lane. There is no retreat point for Endemic. They don't have a well to tap. Everything that they've done is textbook of a team that you would think is much higher ranked than coming in as the #6 team in North America.
Now it's their moment to kind of prove, you know, that they are in fact greater than maybe the numbers early on through the development stage of them has maybe shown into the past, and it looks like it. LFM was unable to make a transition to get any pressure over that middle fort within the downtime with those transitions you pointed out, but it is still very much their game in control for now. Endemic trying to find some control here in bottom, start their own siege, knowing that the 16 race is heavily against them and only closing further and further. Top Shaman was attempted there, at least started here from LFM, and now they're going to make their way down for this defense.
They need this XP. Ancient Blessings was used to try and burst through this. Look for them to try and clear the minions to get through here. In comes Figgy from the flank side. Dansky snips that out. Michael Udall will go in and poke. That fort would have helped a lot for experience to try and get towards that 16 talent tier. It does deny LFM experience on the other side of the battleground, but the inevitability of LFM getting 16 first, we'll see if they can get there during the objective phase, because Endemic, they're on an even talent tier.
Endemic has to deal with the wave, giving a lot of free clear here towards LFM. They see this now, and they're able to back out for a couple of moments. Still half a level lead. We'll see what LFM ends up deciding to do. If they do get aggressive, it's going to be through a Shadow Charge in the same choke that we saw it before. As they get up onto the point, 9 skeletal defenders here for Endemic. LFM return to the point.
You can see the flank position. Swab's the only one on that point, trying to get the clear. Odin is out. There is a lead for Endemic, so the Odin comes out to try and burst through some of this. Droplets will move forward for now. That Odin does give you 25 armor, so it makes you quite a bit tankier as Michael Udall comes in with the shade, but Figgy snips that out on the backside.
Lightning Breath going to be dropped, zoning off that choke as the Consumed Souls ends up coming through, not having the damage to seal a kill, and Fury gets the Shadow Charge onto B-Kid. Mike Udall teleporting out, barely staying alive. Now Dansky is the focus as Dark Chimera keeping that W full channel there. On top of that, LFM tied at 27-27 in terms of skeletal defenders. But it looks like Endemic has had enough with their heroic use. They're going to back out after those fireworks and now have to deal with LFM's Punisher.
They're on the shrine. See if Fury can get there. If he gets the fire stomp in. He's got the charge. He's going to... The Lord of Terror has come in and given Endemic nightmares there, and that goes from a soft defensive play, because that really doesn't do much other than buy you time and give you a little experience. Now this just enables the push. The minions are still a ways behind. The bait over, you have a Johanna, but nice root there, the Shadow Charge over. Nice play there, set up by Dark Chimera, followed up by Fury, and now we'll see if LFM can look for more, but a massive root.
Mike Udall is getting a lot of damage and a lot of resets there as well, able to zone off LFM's siege drastically, even without the 16 talent here. Goes back in for another rotation here. Figgy falling low is the focus now for LFM. Is going to be on the keep, still 18 seconds without their Tychus. Condemn come through. Mike gets a little value there. Shadow Charge ends up using the droplets, getting the autos. The Lornado is going to be there. Fury may be the focus, but look at the Lightning Breath. He accepts his fate, picks up the kill onto Deckard, and LFM take a keep, take a kill, and walk away clean.
The route set up initially by Dark Chimera, but Diablo says, look, I can Shadow Charge through these things, and then getting it directly into the well. Talk about communication and coordination. The snap recognition moving forward, that camp ended up helping the push there. But then, as you pointed out, that Lornado, you're either going to get shoved away, or you just say, screw it, I'm unstoppable, let's go and help confirm the kill, because that Punisher's like, Deckard, come here, I got something for you.
It was a high-risk moment there from Endemic, and it definitely paid off in favor of LFM. Now they're going to be able to have a lot of map control, and the timer for decision-making for Endemic is severely cut off with the catapult pressure towards the top lane. Overtime being paired with any kind of shaman. LFM always have that kind of global macro lethal threat if you will, forcing Endemic to really force a hand. I would like to see, I want to say that Shaman rotation, but I don't think the Shaman camp is going to be a very viable rotation for Endemic here, just purely based on LFM having the double impalers, and they're the one kind of patiently waiting, trying to set up traps.
Michael Udall did go that Shard of Hate at 13 to get the basic attack splashing. Will work out well, and then also has the static field doing some percentage-based damage to the likes of something like a Diablo will help. There's going to be the root in. Dansky forced to use that run and gun out as he'll dash, and this fort still stands with threat of LFM around every corner, Dread.
And it starts there with that Fury. Sharking around on the side, able to scout out over that shrub with that Fire Stomp. Tassadar Oracle going to be able to aid as well. As Malthael picks up the Impaler, BKit tries the Force here. Dimensional Shifts available. This Force onto Figgy. They might try and all in there, just barely out of Blessed range. That was so close to being a dead Tassadar.
Endemic will like to push forward. I think if you're LFM, you can concede this. I mean, the experience that you're going to get, you can soft defend as long as there's no minions and you have Psionic Echo from Figgy on that Tassadar, even if you lose this. I mean, the experience at this level is not that great, but Fury's like, hold on a second, maybe we just get this party started. Lightning Breath is out. Michael Udall getting rooted in, but they're in the bunker. Now they're trying to survive, Dread.
Aegis ends up getting popped, and if LFM can keep them busy, there's 3 catapults on the core at this point. Fury goes in with the Shadow Charge, flips over, big impact. The slow's coming through as the Jet Propulsion is out. BKit hits a Contempt, the Consume Souls does not get the pick. Droplets ends up staying alive as Dansky whittling away on that Odin, finds himself a white main. Damage has been done. LFM down a member. Now find a way to retreat. Swabs is actually on an island. He goes back onto Mike Udall. He's going to try and make the play.
Oh!
Inevitable end use. Fury with the Shadow Charge, and suddenly LFM is turning this around. Swabs is putting the team on his back.
He's going in. There's going to be the Ray Strike confirming another kill just when it looked like Endemic was there. Cure, he's in the bush. Oh, my.
He gets out.
Oh, you got to walk through it. But you know what? They're going to... Maybe we walk up to the core. Dreadnought, this is 50%. There are 3 members dead. There's only 1. They're trying to sidewall this. I don't know if they have enough time, but they're going to go. They have Figgy. They have Droplets. They're going to move directly to the core. Well,
still game.
Tassadar dies. The shielding's starting to come back.
As long as Droplets lives and Lightning Breath gets to the core before 20%.
Go. Droplets will get the stun, turns his attention there. The Lornado will bump him around a little bit. Swabs and Diablo are on that core. Droplets, he's going to fall, but 13%. That's going to be LFM evening up this series 1-1 after a very unique game number 1 comes out in game number 2 and said that was just a fluke. This is who we really are.
And I think that means a lot when looking at this team, not only for this series, but just overall, because this is a team that you should not expect more mental fortitude. They have not been in circumstances with high amount of pressure where they can rely on the things that they have endured over the past years of being a competitive professional roster of HGC. That very much is not the case. So to see them mentally be in the biggest series of their lives, have such a bump in the road in game number 1 and look at game 2 and just be like, nah, clean cut, very well played, that is impressive. And why they are able to tie it up 1-1 here.
Fury on that Diablo was just a menace in that game. Not on Stitches. He's lurking somewhere.
And we don't often talk about early game kills, but and how impactful they can be throughout that game. But I would actually be willing to argue, looking back at that game, if you go that Shadow Charge that happens on the Cure into the body block into the First Blood, if that kill doesn't happen, I would like to see what that game ends up looking like, because I'm not so sure it's the LFM running the show game, because I think that Shrine fight early one, we raised some of the questions. It's kind of weird both directions. And Fury answered the question before it really even got to unfold.
It was impressive. I think if you and I were to sit around and analyze a game, be like, these are the rotations you should make at this point. LFM just hit every checkbox along the way, and they just had Endemic on a stream. It was fun to watch. And we got more action coming at. We got our series now. It's 1-1. We're going to a commercial break. We'll come back with game number 3.